Welcome to Sports Management Podcast, where you will hear interesting sports management professionals share their stories, experiences, and passion for the sports management industry. I am your host, Marcus Philipsson. Welcome to episode 143 of Sports Management Podcast. It's great to see how well the podcast is being received lately by you listeners and viewers. If you want to help the podcast grow, please subscribe to Sports Management Podcast in your podcast app and share it with a friend. Thank you. Now, today's guest is Marcus Walfridson. He's the founder of Sarasota Paradise, a USL Division II soccer club in the United States. He's also a former coach, entrepreneur, and an author. Marcus wanted to live the American dream and decided to start a soccer club. Little did he know the challenges that would face him. Get ready to learn how he managed to start a club during COVID, why he got fired as a coach from Linköping, how he decided to go 10 days without speaking, reading, or writing, why branding is so important to Sarasota Paradise, and much more. Marcus Walfridson, welcome to Sports Management Podcast.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here, Marcus. And I mean, just the fact that we are Marcus.
Exactly. We are both from Sweden. We are both called Marcus. We both love sports, a lot in common. So you are the president of Odiger Group and also the founder and president of Sarasota Paradise Soccer Club. So can you tell us a little bit about what is that you do on a day-to-day?
That's a very good question. Some days I don't even know, but I do basically everything and nothing. That's how it feels. This whole Odiger is a sports consulting company at its core. We fully own and operate Sarasota Paradise at the moment, which is kind of a proof of concept for what we want to do, because we believe that there is a way to create and run and operate a minor league, especially soccer teams here in the US. We're used to calling it football, but here they call it soccer. But we believe that there's a way that we can operate soccer teams without losing money, which is a challenge, especially on the lower levels in the US. We believe that we have a couple of things that we can do a little bit differently to improve efficiency through the organization. And that's kind of what we're testing out in Sarasota Paradise. The team Paradise is a love project, I guess, because, it all started, I'm going to try to keep it short, but it all started, I had the American dream, stop coaching in Scandinavia. The last team was in Sweden. And, wanted to get over here. And I thought, how can I get over here? Because it's not that easy to immigrate legally. And I figured why don't you start a team? How hard can that be? And it's extremely hard, but it's doable. We're off to our second season in the USL League 2. And we're making big strides to reach our goal of being a professional team very soon. So it's an exciting time. So yeah, what do? I do everything. I do nothing. I do everything in between kind of thing. Obviously from strategy, probably my kind of core competencies around strategy, connecting dots, finding opportunities and kind of gaps, if you will. I think that's my kind of core knowledge and strategy or knowledge pool. But then, as a startup, because at the end of the day, Sarasota Paradise is a startup company. Everyone who's ever been an entrepreneur knows that you do everything. So I think that's kind of what it boils down to.
Interesting. So you launched a club in late 2022, but the project started already in the summer of 2019. So can you talk us through from this idea, the American dream, you came over, how does one start a soccer club in the US?
So I just, naively walked into the headquarters of the USL in Tampa. I was in shorts, wearing a backpack, and I raised my hand and said, "Hey, I'm Marcus. I want to start a team." And for some reason, they believed me. I think it was slightly enticing to have someone who has maybe my coaching background. The last team I coached, Linköping, we did play in the Champions League quarterfinal, which was cool. So I think that's kind of what was enticing for them. But I also had a network in the US already built up from years of helping coaches and teams as a consultant. So there was, that's where it started. And, I had a business partner locally. We had identified a location and all the things, investors, and then COVID hit. I literally had a flight booked 3 days after travel ban. So, I was just heading over there, starting signing papers with the league, with the investors, etc. And when COVID hit, obviously everything kind of took a back seat. The whole project was kind of put on ice. And I remember sitting in the Swedish forest, in the mountains, in 2020, and I was like, no, I'm gonna make this happen. Like, I don't give a rat's ass. We're gonna make this happen. And so, kind of rebooted the project. Found my current business partner through two different English connections, which is kind of a little bit weird, because my business partner is American. But it was one of these things where things just line up. Having the perseverance and the persistence is important, and I just want to get it done. So we got connected and started working on Sarasota. The reason for Sarasota is just because I have a friend who I met through coaching that I came and visited in 2018, and just fell in love with the area. So it was a no-brainer in terms of the area. There's other data points that makes it a good spot too, but I just fell in love with the area, so that's what I wanted to do. Ups and downs, but we're finally up and running.
Amazing. So you said there's some other data points. So of course you like the area. What other aspects do you need to consider for choosing the location?
Well, there's a lot of stuff that goes into it, and some of them are very logical and reasonable, and some probably not. But demographic, data is very important. The wise people are a little bit jaded on this when you talk about a soccer market. But in general, what people say is you want a younger market, you want relatively high income, but also you want a relatively high number of Latin, Hispanics, people who actually know what game it is. I think that's what it boils down to. And, Sarasota is interesting because if you look at the data, census data from 2018, it doesn't show you all these good markers, right? It's fairly old, populous, very, very high net income, household income, but relatively low number of Latin, Hispanic population. However, what I saw already in 2018 when I was there in 2019 was that was changing rapidly. And like Sarasota today, first of all, the metropolitan area has grown from around 850,000 people to now passing 1 million, which is obviously a huge influx of people. The people who moved to the area are younger families from all backgrounds, which is that's the core demo for US soccer. Younger families, and I don't really care where people come from, but at least people who know what game it is actually moved to the town, which is good. But also the younger generations know what soccer is, right? So it's the huge positive shift. I remember in 2018 when I was there, I went downtown midweek, and after 9 p.m., totally closed, nothing happens, very, very boring place. And if you go downtown now, midweek, you see a different crowd. All of a sudden, it's rowdy at 10 p.m., 10, 11, 12 on a weekday, but it's a totally different crowd than was there at 7 p.m. So you kind of have the retirement community, but you have the younger families moving in, which is a great thing for us. And that's kind of where I think our club can also be a huge benefactor to the community, with all these people moving in. Well, if you want to feel part of a community, it's not that easy to just do that. But that's where I see that this is where Sarasota Paradise can fill a void, where we can become the centerpiece of the community and create that togetherness and a unity in our community. And that's what we're kind of aiming for.
That's fantastic. And of course, another important piece is the stadium where you will play your games. So, how to find a stadium. I assume it's really expensive to build one. How did you consider that and decide on your current stadium?
So the stadium issue is why we are not professional yet. So in Sarasota County, there are currently 21 rectangles, as the county likes to call it. 22 if you count the one field within the city limits, meaning that there's not a lot of options. And these quote-unquote rectangles aren't all regulation size for soccer. So there is no place in Sarasota County where we could play professionally. Currently, we did try in 2021 to offer the county to build a temporary stadium at one of their fields that weren't used much. But we kind of got shot down on that, which I understand because I was a tourist at the time and my business partner's in Texas, so I can understand that stuff. But there's one kind of facility currently in the area where we could play potentially. So we're working on that. And then, as you say, you can build a stadium. And, it's a lot of money, of course. However, if you look at our area, there is a lot of building going on in general. It's very popular given all the people moving in. There's a lot of people who would like to help us build stuff and create cool things. And, the challenge is that land is very expensive. Because if everyone wants to be there, land is going to be expensive. So there might be some opportunity in the future for that. But currently we're focusing on just getting started. So we are in lease negotiations with a facility where we could play professionally, hopefully from next year.
So when you say play professionally, now you're in the USL Division 2. So what would that mean in terms of league?
So for those who might not be fully acquainted to the US soccer landscape, there are 3 professional divisions. Professional meaning that people are paid to play, etc. And there's a lot of regulation stuff. And those 3 divisions are, most people know about MLS, which is Division 1 on the men's side. And Division 2 on the men's side is USL Championship. We have our neighbors, Tampa Rowdies, playing there. And Division 3 on the men's side have 3 different leagues. But USL League 1 is the main one of them. That's the most professional. And then under that, you have a myriad of what's technically amateur. And we are technically amateur, although we are a semi-pro operation. USL League 2 is kind of, universally recognized as the top of that amateur pyramid, so to speak. A league that was created called PDL back in the Professional Development League was created to give college players the opportunity to show themselves during the summer, which, we are proof of concept in a way, I guess, because we had Jose Kojima, who played for us last summer, drafted as number 17 overall in the MLS draft, made his debut the other day for St. Louis FC. And of course, he scored the winning goal, as any proper Paradise player would do. So we're very excited about. I'm very happy for Jose, but that's kind of the level. So we're currently kind of level 4, tier 4, and professional means we'll go to level 3.
That's interesting to understand the landscape. I wasn't 100% aware myself, to be honest. Speaking about Sarasota, I've also heard that you said that you're very proud about your branding for the club. So what is it just about the branding that you're proud of?
So I'm proud of the fact that we have been able to encapsulate all the different aspects, I feel, of Sarasota and the city of Sarasota and the area around it. Our brand does feel like it encapsulates the experience you have when you come to Sarasota. And that was kind of one of the ideas behind it, because, people talk about, oh, you need to call your team football club or soccer club. And I'm like, well, first of all, here in this country, people call it soccer. So why should we call it football club? That seems to be confusing. And I mean, technically, it's actually not a club. It's a company, right? So it's like, we had all these things. And I'm like, I don't want that. I wanted something that can really be a statement towards we are for everyone in our community. We want to represent the community. In my brain, that's what a club should do. A club is by the community and for the community. That's how we were raised. And that's what I want the brand to also encapsulate. And Sarasota is a town and area that, of course, has all the beauty in terms of the beaches and, the ocean views, etc. And also a lot of cool nature inland. But it also has a huge art and culture faction. I mean, it's widely recognized. Obviously, circus has a huge part of Sarasota history with the Ringling Brothers. And, we wanted to put all these pieces in one brand. And I think we did a pretty good job. It was an interesting process. We had a great guy who helped us design it and helped us through the process. And forever grateful for his work. The guy's a genius. He literally came to Sarasota 1 week. And then after that, he kind of he was able to kind of catch all the main things from kind of what Sarasota is. like 1 week. Obviously talked to a lot of people, but still, it's very impressive. But that's also kind of his key skill set. So yeah, so that's what makes me proud about it. It's also very, it's through and through. It's not like we only have a logo, right? We have like alternative marks, we have proper style guide, good colors, and yeah, I love it.
So speaking of the logo, you're wearing the hoodie for those who watch on YouTube and also the cap. So was that something you came up with, or was this guy who came for a week?
So I cannot take credit for anything I'm wearing. Also, this hoodie has not sold well at all. I think it's the green. We're never going to have a green hoodie again. That's like lost a lot of money on these hoodies. So if you want one, let me know. They're cheap at the moment. The hat is one of the alternative marks, or like part of the logo, the sable palmetto, state tree of Florida, which is kind of cool to do in a hat. The hat is made by Official League, this company, a great company out in Portland, Oregon. And yeah, so that's the things. Merchandise is of course a kind of what we look at as an X factor for us. One of the kind of ideas behind the brand, right, and is that when someone's vacationing in Sarasota and they walk by the window where they see our logo or our stuff, right, I want them to feel like, hey, that's the thing that really talks to me and encapsulates my experience here in Sarasota. And therefore buy it. Now, as you see, nothing of what I'm wearing says soccer or football, or you cannot make out that it's a soccer club, which is intentional because the brand is for the city, and that's kind of the key thing. But we also have alternative marks where it actually says that we are a soccer club. So yeah, come buy the stuff, of course, Sarasota Paradise.store. I'm going to plug that, get there and buy the hoodies for a good deal. We need to get rid of them before the summer.
I see. Is that you said that they didn't say soccer on it? Is that also to use it as type of a lifestyle brand?
Yeah, I mean, not consciously, to be honest. More of a I want the brand to be representing the city, the area, or paradise that we call it, right? And I mean, fun fact about the name is one of the reasons why we landed on the name. We did have competition, and it was suggested a lot. I think it was mostly suggested, but there was one of our people who worked with us, a local. She said that hey, we always say that we live in paradise, but you only visit, right? And that kind of drove it home a little bit. So yeah, so do want the brand to be representative of the whole city and the area. That's the main thought. And then I've heard afterwards that, hey, you were the first club that kind of did a lifestyle brand, and now we see a couple of clubs following that. And I'm like, okay, cool. I mean, if someone copies it, obviously not copies the principles of it, that's awesome because, that means that we're onto something. So being copied is one of the biggest flatteries you can get, right? So we're very happy about that, and something we want to keep building on.
Awesome. We mentioned merch. That's one revenue stream, but obviously there are more. And I assume as a technically amateur club, it might be difficult sometimes to bring in the cash. So what are some revenue streams that you see as more important, and where are you maybe struggling a little bit?
Well, I mean, in general, especially minor league or lower level, whatever. Some people get mad at me if I call it minor league because I guess it's not minor league technically because we are independent. But anyway, lower division soccer, lower division, to be slightly politically correct for once. The biggest revenue streams are sponsorships, corporate partnerships across the board. That's one of the most important things. Then you had ticket sales, which is a huge thing for all teams, all levels, but especially, more so in the US than in Scandinavia, for example, because we have fewer people in Scandinavia. So it's kind of interesting to see how it's kind of a little bit different. And then you have merchandise revenue, you have concession revenue, meaning what people spend at games. And then, you have supplemental revenue streams from that. Everything from, we don't have that, we don't charge for parking yet, but we will one day when we go pro. That's a revenue stream. And then you have camps, clinics, stuff like that for kids or whatever, which is But those are the main ones. The biggest surprise, maybe for me, in terms of those streams, was we made more money on ticket sales than I thought because we had more people than I thought we would have. We had slightly less than I hoped, because my hope was 600 average. The first season, and we averaged 540, 550 or something. But the biggest challenge has been to get into the corporate partnerships, because it's something I think I kind of underestimate a little bit, how it's so relationship driven, that even though you have a bunch of companies and you have huge corporations in Sarasota, it is getting to the right person is actually the most difficult part, I think, for us at least, have been. Because we're an amateur team, would have been easier if we started pro immediately, because you get a bigger splash. But also how that is, it's a relationship, and it takes so much time to make each deal. That's something that I kind of underestimate a little bit. We're very, very grateful to have great supporting corporate partners, but we would like to have more. Also, from the perspective of, if this is going to be a community-based club, and if we're going to involve everyone in the community, well, we can't really do that. We can't help our community unless we have partners, right? So we want as many companies and businesses involved as possible, so we can actually create more value to them and to our community. And, getting that message across, probably I haven't done a good enough job on it. Being a startup with a small operation, probably haven't done a good enough job on that. But yeah, that's been the biggest challenge for sure, so far at least.
I saw on your Instagram that you're trying to make the ticketing experience easier with taking away all the hidden fees and to make it clear. So is that one of the strategies to get more ticket sales?
No, actually not. So it's just that I hate fees. Like I personally hate it. And like I get so annoyed every time when I try to buy a ticket, and well, I don't try, I end up buying it. But you go to a game and you find that ticket for, I mean, $50 or whatever, if you're lucky enough to find a $50 basketball or hockey ticket up in the, just under the roof there somewhere.
Nosebleed seats.
Yeah, exactly. Those are the awesome seats. I actually love them in hockey because you get a good overview. But anyway, you do that, you see, $50. But then you go to checkout and all of a sudden it's 65 or 70 or whatever. The worst experience I had was actually in 2021. I randomly walked into a Houston Astros game. I was in Houston for a meeting. Didn't have anything to do in the evening, and I didn't even know they were playing. But I walked past it and I saw, hey, the Astros are playing. Ironically, the Mariners. But the cheapest ticket was like $14. And I was like, oh yeah, I'll do that. It was literally the seat under the roof, like literally the top seat. But I mean, I don't care. I mean, I think baseball is fairly boring. But I just go there to kind of enjoy the sporting experience kind of thing. And at the end, after all the freaking fees, it ended up being like $36. And I'm like, how the F is this possible? Like, this should be criminal. And I know they have made some amendments to things, so I think you can't charge that much in fees. But that's when I was starting to think, like, I don't want fees on our tickets. And last year, I didn't want fees on our tickets last year either. But in the rush of things, the ticket guys said that we couldn't get rid of them because of the ticket system or whatever. But they changed it this year, I think. So now we can finally get rid of the fees for the end user. So the price you see is the price you pay, which is, the way it should be. So it's a personal thing for me. I just hate it myself. If I don't like something, why should I expose other people to it? Like, it's not worth the extra money.
So now looking forward, what's the goal now going forward with Sarasota Paradise?
So the goal is, a lot of parallel stuff going on, but in terms of the upcoming season, we want to make the playoffs for the first time. So we have I think, better roster this year. We have everyone committed already, which is weird. Last year, we didn't have a player at this time of year. So we have had so much time. It's crazy. So we do want to make the playoffs. We also, off the field kind of thing, last year we had one game with more than 1,000 people in the stands. This year I want a game with minimum 2,000 people in the stands. And obviously have a higher average attendance. So that's hugely important stuff. And then the goal besides that is to go professional next year. So currently working very hard to make sure Sarasota Paradise can be a professional team in 2025, which means, the stadium issue, means raising capital, means all the legal stuff that goes into that stuff. So those are the goals.
Interesting. I'm excited to follow the journey of Sarasota Paradise. Prior to what you're doing now, your American Dream experience, you have been head coach and coach in different teams. I would like to speak a little bit about when you were in Linköping, because I think it's an interesting case for many reasons. You mentioned that you play in the Champions League and you had some success there, but also it ended earlier than you expected, I assume. So can you just talk a little bit about, getting the job, and then how was that experience at Linköping?
So it was an experience I would never trade for anything. If I still wanted to coach, I should have never taken the job, I guess. But it's a good lesson. I actually write a fair amount of this in my book, Lessons from the Beautiful Game, that you can buy on Amazon. So there's another plug. But it was an interesting experience. I think, what was the biggest thing was the cultural difference, moving from men's to women's. Also, I think the team at the time when I came in a little bit too late to affect too much of the roster. And I didn't do certain roster movements early enough, because basically what happened was that the year before they won the league, and 5 of the most dominant verbal players, if you will, can put different terms on it, but the people who kind of kept other people in check, they moved on. Like, they moved on to professional teams abroad, which full deserved because they're great players. And the players who came in, younger players, I think, felt more entitled, and it became more important who played than how we played. And for me, that became a syntax error. Like, I couldn't understand it. And, it also shows that I wasn't the right person for the job, because I was not prepared to spend so much time talking about emotions, maybe more than the game itself. And, also, to be fair, like, one of the reasons why I'm not coaching is I'm not a great man manager. That's was my biggest weakness as a coach. And it became very apparent, I think, in Linköping. I decided I wanted to quit when we went to Manchester, because that was the first time we were together as a team. And I can actually see how the behaviors were. And I'm like, okay, this is not for me. So I wanted out. My plan was to resign after the cup final, because I did take the team. We did go to the cup final, but they fired me, I think it was a week before. So that's slightly annoying, but also financially very positive, because they get paid to travel a little bit. So I already decided that I wanted out, and they probably saw it and fired me before that. So, which is fine. I mean, they kept on the same. They had the same issues for multiple years afterwards. So yeah, I don't think it was my fault, but it was good to have the experience, and very honored to coach some of the best female players in the country, like Kosova Aslani, Filippa Angeldal, who were brought in from Hammarby. That was a good signing. We had like, I think it was 5 players in this last World Cup that was on the team. So that was pretty cool. So grateful to them, cool people. I wish them all the best. So it was a good experience though. Like, honestly, it's one of these things where you kind of have to go through it, and you learn more about yourself and what you are kind of made to do. And some environments are just not for you. Some cultures are not for you. And I think in society in general, that is something we need to start accepting. That everyone does not fit into every place, and that's okay. There's a reason why people choose to live together at different locations, and that's fine. So this is one of those moments.
You also got burned out. Was that during this period?
Yeah, I think that was. So, reflecting on that, like, I mean, obviously I worked a lot, did not have days off. Huge mistake. Lived far away from family, friends, etc. Now, looking back on it, I'm more like, was I burned out, quote unquote, burned out, for those reasons that I worked a lot and stuff like that? Or was it because I saw early that this was not for me? It wasn't a great fit. Like, I didn't really love what I was doing. So that's what I'm kind of reflecting on now, because I'm working more now. I'm not burnt out, right? So I do think that burnout is a thing that happens when you are not in pursuit of your kind of mission or your purpose, right? When you're pursuing something that's not your purpose, or that's not innate in you, I think then you will risk burnout. I think as long as you're going after stuff you really love, I don't think burnout is a huge issue. It might still happen, I don't know, but I think that was the main issue. And then, of course, the fact that I worked 20 something straight days, was in the office every freaking day and all night and remodeled the freaking office and like all this stupid stuff, right? Obviously that played a part. So it was general fatigue as well. But yeah, I think in general, if you're doing stuff that you are dedicated to do and that you have a burning passion for, and I do think you can learn to have a burning passion about stuff that you actually don't like. That's also a different conversation. But as long as you are able to see the end goal and how this benefits you, I don't think you run a big risk of burnout, but always good to take care of yourself and at least eat properly and sleep. Two things I didn't do.
Of course. But I think that's a good point you're bringing up, that if you work, because you also work now, as you say, of course, like starting a club in the US, it's a very tough job and you're working probably, as you said, probably more than you did, but this is your passion and you love this. And then I think it's very difficult to be burned out if you do something that you love. I think it's the combination of what you said. If you do something that you're not maybe 100% passionate about, or something that you feel is not right for you, and then that together with the workload makes it just become too much.
100%. And, and then obviously the caveat there is that you do need sleep on the long term, at least. I mean, you can go days in the week without sleeping much, but overall you do need sleep, probably the most important thing. And you do need some decent nutrition, working out, and not drinking. So if you're able to do those things, then I don't think it really matters how much you work.
So you plugged your book, Lessons from the Beautiful Game. So what are some lessons from coaching that you now can implement in the more business setting?
I think the process itself, like that you should prepare properly, and like that you need to evaluate the stuff. I think those are the ends of that process. I think is very very much the same. I also think the concept of efficiency, like the way I described in the book, I think that's something that you can take into business for sure. And I think the principles are kind of more or less universal, I would say. And it's just in the book, it's written in the context of coaching. But I mean, you also coach your employees. You also coach basically, the people you talk to all the time, right? So as a coach, you are kind of a sales guy or a sales gal, right? You're a salesperson. But that you have to be that if you're the CEO or the president or the founder of a company as well, right? It's a kind of very similar stuff. So I think more or less everything there you can translate into business. I think for me the biggest sides things are the preparation, the evaluation, looking back. I think that's one of the key things that we forget in coaching because of time. Usually we don't have the time to do it. But the same comes in business, right? You don't have time to do it. You don't have time to prepare. You don't have time to evaluate. And I think that ends up biting you in the butt at the end.
Interesting. If I'm correct, you didn't go to university and still you're a serial entrepreneur. You have started your own club. You have gone to the highest level of coaching in women's soccer. I mean, so much knowledge also. When I read about the Linköping case, I think there were some quotes from some players that said that you're kind of a nerd and that you are very intelligent. So obviously you have gained knowledge otherwise outside of the traditional schooling system. So how do you educate yourself?
I just read a lot. I think I am slightly nerdy of certain subjects, and it goes in waves, right? Like, for example, when I was coaching, I read a lot about human behavior, why human behave the way we do, how we make decisions. So like psychology, I read a lot about psychology, group psychology, sports psychology, obviously. And, now it's more financial stuff, economics, political stuff, how groups work, etc. Right? So it's like, just curious interests. I do believe that the day you stop learning is the day when you go and get your shovel and you go out back and you dig a 6 feet hole and put yourself in it. Pretty much. Like, that's how I feel about life. I think life is a journey of learning. And I think how we learn is very individual and different. I'm not a huge believer on the traditional school system. I mean, I did not do well in traditional school system. Probably some of that is my fault, of course, but also like how knowledge is kind of delivered, I think. I think that's maybe the main issue that's delivered. It's not a process where you can get to try and fail, and people learn different ways, more or less. But I do think like the hands-on learning experience is super valuable, and I do think we need kind of a reform in terms of, and we see this now, especially in the US. It's very obvious, like how the university system is like it's just fraudulent racket, to be honest. Like it's ridiculous to see how much money these universities just have, and they charge, and and then they just basically indoctrinate young people into different things. It's ridiculous. So I do think there's a educational revolution that's already started. And we see in the US a lot of homeschooling thanks to COVID, and I think that's gonna keep on going. I mean, it's not legal to homeschool in Sweden, but I know if it was legal, I definitely know my brother would, and many probably would as well. I think that's kind of there's going to be a revolution in how education is done and run. I mean, with the advent of obviously the continued development of internet, but also AI. I think I see no reason why schools should be the same. It's more of these big institutions have all this money and power, so they just kind of grab it, even though it seems to be fraudulent sometimes, but that's a different story. So yeah, I'm very excited about what can happen with education. I think also like that's one of the pathways I see for the club, because I do see, and I always talked about this as a coach and sport director as well, like, our main job is to educate these young people to be good role models in society. I think that's why we're here. Like, that's why it's so important for us to have players with a certain character, and certain disposition, and for our coaches to be continuously learning. Like, for me, it's ingrained in all we do. And I do think, especially as adults, I think we have responsibility to help teach our younger residents or younger people that what it takes to get on in life and to make it. And sometimes that teaching is maybe not very, it's not very cute. It's not like oh, blah, blah. But sometimes you actually need to hear the hard truth. Sometimes you need to find out yourself. And I think that's the sign of a good educator, being able to know when to do what. But yeah, so as a club, that's what we want to do. We want to help educate our community. We want to help educate young soccer players. And hopefully that's something we can do. We do have an idea for that as well.
Something else that I found when doing research was that you went on a meditation camp, you can call it, in 2015, that very strict with you had to be completely silent for 10 days. You couldn't look someone in the eyes, fully vegan diet. So why did you decide to do this?
So as a challenge. So it was a process of, I call it waking up kind of thing there, 2014, 2015. And I met some people who I'm very grateful for, who talked about, doing a 10-day meditation retreat. And I found this place in Sweden, actually, but they have facilities all over the world. And it's non-religious, which kind of helped me a little bit. But yeah, it's the challenge. The thing is that when you are all alone, because you are all alone, because you can't talk to anyone, you can't look people in the eyes, can't communicate, can't read, can't write. You are all alone, but you are surrounded with people. So you're alone with your thoughts, which I think for most people is a very scary experience. If you look around you, you'll notice that people walk around with music all the time or some type of input, because otherwise you get your thoughts. So that might be the scariest thing for a lot of people. So you are alone with yourself and your thoughts. You are confronted with all the stuff that happened to you throughout life. In that meditation retreat, I experienced the worst day of my life and the best day of my life. And I did it 2 years in a row. I try to do it now this year, but it was full. So I'm trying to get it. Hopefully this year, I will get another one. But it's something I can definitely recommend for everyone to try. Most people don't make it past 3 days. Or like the fourth day, third or fourth day, they'll leave. And when I heard that, of course, my game face come on. I wanted to win, so I wanted to make it. But it was, like I said, it was wonderful and it was horrible. So, but at the end, you feel lighter because you process a lot of things. It's like peeling an onion, layer after layer of your brain. And meditation is something that I still do every day. Did this morning before I call. For me, it's very important. It's a good way for me to kind of keep myself alive, I guess. Talking about the stress and stuff. The more things are going on, the more I try to meditate. It's not that easy, but the more that helps for sure. So I think any type of like spiritual practice, mindfulness, or something like that, I think it's good for you, especially nowadays. We get so much information. I think I saw something that in an average day, the average human today gets more information than someone a couple hundred years ago did their whole life, right? And it's we're not built for it yet. We haven't adapted it yet. So I think we do need some protocols to kind of keep our brains somewhat healthy. I mean, looking around society, I'm not sure we're doing a good job, but it looks like it's crazy town. But therefore, maybe we need to keep our heads cool a bit.
Mm. So what do you do if you can't even read or write?
What do? You meditate. So the practice itself is introspection, right? So you basically scan your body. Very, very simple explanation, but you scan your body, look for different sensations. And the challenge is to observe them and not pass judgment, right? And you will drift off in thoughts, and you will think about things that happen, but that's the way it is. It's fine. There's no specific purpose of meditation. It's just you put your focus somewhere to kind of, I call it like you basically do it to open up the barrier so you can get all the stuff that's boiling inside in your subconscious to the surface. When your unconscious is kind of cleared, or at least less busy, you feel better. You're able to structure things a little bit better, I think, in your brain. I mean, it might be different for different people, but you meditate. That's what you do. And you walk around a little bit in nature, and you all of a sudden you see the colors of the leaves, and you see how the bird, and how beautiful it is, and you become appreciated of the small things in life, which we kind of tend to miss when we're busy.
Interesting. So you mentioned that one of the days was the toughest that you have been through, and we also talked about some challenges in Linköping and some challenges with starting your own club. Has there been any other bumps on the road in your career?
There's been many. I have so far I've been void of experiencing that smooth highway. I would love to see that one come one day. One of these pictures where they show you that success is this bumpy road, or like this. Is it in the book Essentialism, maybe, where he has like all the curly stuff, and then eventually you go. It kind of feels like most days everything is going bad, but then at the end it does seem to go in the right direction, which is tricky. And that's also maybe one of the things I take from the book, like the goal setting perspective, and evaluating that every week to make sure that you're actually moving in the right direction. Because throughout the career, like, there's been many huge bumps. Like, I've been a tourist. It took me 2 years to get a visa. It took me a lot of money to get a visa, to actually get a salary. I mean, first time I got a salary in 4 years or whatever was 3-4 months ago. So that's obviously a huge bump, been a huge challenge. And the whole traveling back and forth and not being able to work in the US, etc. Right? You have to have other people that you hire and try to, with your poor man management skills, help understand stuff. So that's obviously been a huge bump. But yeah, I do think that, well, I don't know, but it seems to be that people who get somewhere or are successful at something, I'm not saying I'm definitely not successful yet, but it does seem like there's a lot of challenges. And I think many of us feel like it is basically problems. And then all of a sudden you look up and, oh, this is a good spot to be in. And then you kind of keep on working. Might also be like one of these personal traits, right? That I love problems, and solving problems are kind of fun. And when you've done that, and this is like literally when I was coaching and when I was playing, same thing, because the game is a problem, right? And you win the game, you're like, okay, next time, next thing. You're not happy. You're not like, you don't celebrate unless you win a cup or promotion or whatever. But like, otherwise, you don't celebrate the win. You just move on to the next thing, and you think about, what can I do tomorrow to make this team better? And that's literally how I walk through life now as well. Like, I try to celebrate a little bit. Like when we do I try, but I struggle. I probably need to be better at it for my own sanity. But yeah, it's you just look at what can you do next, what can you do better. That's how I'm wired. Like, what can I do better? How can I do this better? I can do more. Should be able to do more. Like, that's an obsession. So I'm not sure I answered your question, but at least I rambled a little bit.
I think you did. And also, I love what you said in the end that you celebrate the successes. That I think it's important, both in our personal lives and at work, that we take this moment to celebrate the success, but then we move on. So you still improve. You're not just being happy where you are, but I think it's important to take that moment to celebrate the success and then, okay, now on to the next one.
I think so too, in theory, but I don't understand it yet. I tend to talk about this, I know it, but I don't understand it. So I know that's the thing to do, but I don't understand it. So because I don't do it, right? I do it sometimes, maybe. It's a huge difference. Knowledge and understanding. Understanding is totally different things. But I agree. I think we do need that.
What is your best advice for someone who wants to pursue a career in the soccer industry?
Good question. I think number one is to figure out what you want to do in life in general. If you want to be wealthy, probably do something else. Like, honestly, you should probably get a normal job. That's what I wish I did. Instead of going after coaching, get a normal job in a big company and move up quickly because you work hard, so it's easy to be promoted, hopefully. But I think, if you do it, if you want to go in the soccer industry, why? Do you know why you want to do it? Do you know what you want to do? And I mean, the what might not be what you go after first, but if you have a why, like, okay, I know I want to do this because, I love the game, or, I want to make a difference in my community, or I think I see something where I can improve, the structure of the game or whatever, then go for it. And then figure out how to get there. And I think you should try to reverse engineer it. So start with the end in mind, and then kind of, okay, how can I get there? Because then you just start. You start as an intern, you start as a volunteer, whatever, you show your worth, and then you move your way up. But you need to know where you're going and why.
Of course, that's a good advice. Who from your network do you think would be a good guest on this podcast?
Well, I mean, we talked a little bit before. Like, I have a Swedish friend who definitely would be a good guest. I'm always curious to see what he's wearing when he's on TV. So I'm going to introduce you to Ola Lidmark Eriksson, who's the CTO now of a Playmaker. It's a data analytics company in Sweden. So I'm definitely going to introduce him, and that's the one that pops into my brain immediately. I'll think a little bit about it, but I do think there's a couple more that could be interesting.
Fantastic. So you have plugged your book, you have plugged the merch for Sarasota. Anything else you want to mention before we sign off here?
No, I mean, if you want to reach out and have a conversation, feel free to do that. You can find me on the social medias. My handle is at Marcus Walfrid, Walfrid, on pretty much every platform, like Instagram, X, Facebook, etc. So do that. Follow me there and have a conversation, ask me questions. Feel free to reach out.
Awesome. Marcus, thank you so much for taking the time to be on Sports Management Podcast.
Thank you, Marcus.
Thank you for listening to the Sports Management Podcast. Please hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on any upcoming episodes. Also, feel free to leave a comment about what you thought about this episode. If you want to get in contact with me, send an email to sportsmpodcast@gmail.com or hit me up on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram @sportsmpodcast.